All right, we're here. We are taking a look at the upcoming ordinances that the city council has proposed to pass. A lot of these are updates on what they were looking at earlier this year, and we had a really large turnout at the city council meeting. A lot of people in opposition to a lot of the ordinances. We're just going to run through them here and see what we got here. So, first page here, this is just ordinance cover sheet. A lot of whereas the city of Clinton, it's a municipal corporation. They want to rework, overhaul. They want to amend some sections here. Uh, excuse me. They want to replace language here, and then they want to make this effective immediately. So this is on file. This was placed on file at the city council meeting on on Tuesday, August 5th. So they would have to have it on file for that amount of time, and then they could go and vote on this at their next council meeting, which would be scheduled to be on the third Tuesday of the month, which should be as early as August 19th. And here's how they just do the vote. You know, who voted yes, who voted nay, ayes, nays, absent, abstain, passed and approved. The mayor would sign it, and then the city clerk would sign it. Goes into law. That's a little rundown. So they're saying Exhibit A here, the nuisance provisions. So they're going to declare these things here a public nuisance to cause or suffer the carcass of any animal or any offal, filth, or noisome nuisance to be collected or remain upon any premises or place of prejudice of others. To suffer any premises where an animal is kept to become nauseous, foul, or offensive to any neighbor, family, or person. Throw, deposit any offal or other offensive matter or carcasses of any animal in any water course, lake, pond, spring, well, street, alley, public highway, private premises, or park of the city. Not a big issue there. I mean, that's kind of being a jerk if you do it. To suffer any cellar, vault, drain, privy, yard, or premises become from any cause foul and offensive or injurious to public health. Okay, I mean that's pretty straightforward there. To deposit or remain or permit or to remain upon any premises or upon any public street or alley any slops, animal or vegetable matter of any kind which is likely to become putrid or offensive. The only issue kind of with this is if you're running like a compost heap for your gardens and stuff, and you have a few people in town that they like to do that. Uh, I don't think they're really going to be going after a lot of people's compost stuff. To permit foul or stagnant water to stand upon any premises to the prejudice of others. Well, so some of this you're where you have you're a little prone to flooding and all that. One of the biggest offenders of this that's in the city limits actually, or they're really close. I'm not 100% for sure. You'd have to look at the map and double check. Is the old lagoon, the old railroad lagoon, because that is it's stagnant water. If you've ever been up there around it, it's full of algae and all that, and it is a. And to be honest, it's a hazard for the city. To be honest, because we've had that flood out a couple of times. Most recently, we were worried about it back at the end of 2018. We had a lot of rain there, and it flooded pretty major back in the mid 90s there, which led to a lot of floodplains and that in town, and what they now call the city arboretum. That's basically floodplain where it just kept flooding out. So I don't know what they're going to be doing about some of that. Uh, to permit the growth upon premises within the limits of the city any noxious weeds or other vegetation set forth in Chapter 3 of this title, to corrupt or render unwholesome or impure the water of any spring river, stream, pond, or lake to the injury of prejudice of others, to obstruct or impede without legal authority the passage of any navigable river or waters. So I'm kind of curious about this one too. Uh, we have some creeks and stuff in town that it's kind of borderline if it's navigable or not. If you have a pretty shallow uh, keel canoe, you possibly navigate some of that. Kayaks, maybe inner tubes and stuff like that. But there are some big logs and stuff that are down that are on that do block some of that. So kind of little interesting there what might happen there. Uh, to erect, continue, or use any building or other place for any exercise of any trade, employment, or manufacture, which by occasioning noxious exhalations, offensive smell, or otherwise is offensive or dangerous to the health of individuals or of the public. We don't really have any of those in the city limits. H&M trucking back in the day, they used to have some issue with that, especially when you've got a pretty good strong wind coming out of the west. But they're not in the city limits, there's nothing we can do about it. To harass, intimidate, or threaten any person who is about to sell or lease or has sold or leased a residence or other real property or is about to buy or lease or has bought or leased a residence or other real property when the harassment, intimidation, or threat relates to the person's attempt to sell, buy, or lease residence or other real property or refers to a person's sale, purchase, or lease of residence or other real property. Wow, that's a mouthful. I guess the point of that is don't be an a-hole to people. Treat people good, golden rule. To deposit, permit, or remain upon, or accumulate on any premises upon any public street or alley any waste, refuse, trash, garbage, and other deleterious substances. The following words shall have the definitions as herein set forth. Firewood. Firewood shall constitute a nuisance if it is not located at least 8 inches above ground and stacked on impervious material that will not deteriorate due to elements of nature, and provided further that any piles of firewood must be ventilated to stop the habitation infestation of rodents, termites, and other animals or pests. Okay, you're storing this stuff outside. Animals and pests are going to get into it. There's no way you can stop this. So, and I mean, is the city going to walk around with a tape measure and measure if your firewood is stored 8 inches above the ground? Seriously? Come on. What a joke. And mice and all that, they're going to get into this stuff. It's a fact of life. Get over it. Indoor furniture. Furniture located outside as not designed or modified to withstand the elements in outdoor use. Okay, no more couches on your front porches, I guess. Refuse. Water, rubbish, garbage, trash, furniture, mattresses, box spring, inoperable household appliances, automobile parts, mechanical parts, cans, container, building materials included but not limited to lumber, windows, doors, cement blocks, bricks, broken concrete, piping and wiring, building equipment not limited to scaffolding, wood, and ladders, or any other material of any kind has been discarded, rejected, cast away, or thrown away as worthless. Man, this is a slippery slope here. Are they talking that you can't store outside? We're talking about lumber, windows, doors, cement blocks, bricks, broken concrete, piping, wiring. Broken concrete is it's not uncommon for broken concrete to be used for erosion control. In fact, it's one of the primary uses for broken concrete is erosion control. Uh, it's what it's really good for because what else are you going to use it for other than fill? But cement blocks and bricks, building equipment. Um, you're using it outside. If you're doing a project outside, do they what do they want you to do? Put all this stuff away every single day when you're not using it? You're not allowed to have it outside unless you're. eh, this doesn't make much sense to me. And I know people are going to say, well, you're kind of getting down a rabbit hole here. I had one of the former ordinance enforcement officers come down and try to cite me one day because we were outside working on something, building something, and she said that we could not be building that stuff outside. Could not be building things outside. Honest to God, I cannot make this kind of stuff up, folks. So we got to have a little common sense here. And, it's not, they're going to say, well, we're not going to enforce it that way. That's not our intent. Intent me only goes so far. It's how the law is, how it is written. Because how it is written is how it will be enforced. You could get an overzealous ordinance officer or cop, whatever, and could go and take this thing way too far extreme. And whenever it goes in there, they're going to say, well, yeah, he technically can do that. So this is going to be a little bit of a problem here. How we're going to be storing building equipment, how we're going to be storing some building materials and stuff. Now, I mean, we're not complaining about, you know, I mean, some people get building materials and they leave them out there for months and months, years. Okay, yeah, that's kind of a problem. But whenever you have people that are just leaving it out there for a short amount of time and they're possibly running the risk that they're going to get fined, okay, that's a bit much. You know, I mean, in building materials here, you're going to have some roofing done. You get you a good deal on a pallet of shingles. Yeah, you get it down there, you have it unloaded, maybe a week or so before you get around to it. So you're telling me they're going to start fining you? Come on, man. Fences which are erected and fabricated of barbed wire within the city limits, except for security fences which exceed the height of 6 feet from the ground level to the top of the non-barbed wire, and the barbed wire only permitted above the 6-foot fence. Okay, I don't think many people have barbed wire fence in town. Uh, Fences above ground which are erected and fabricated of wire so as to conduct electricity. Come on, man, don't have electric fences. All exposed surfaces marked with graffiti. Oh boy. Graffiti shall mean any drawing, inscription, writing, figure, or mark upon a wall or other exposed surface, including but not limited to any house, garage, rock, bridge, fence, gate, tree, monument, motor vehicle, sidewalk, street, lamppost, street sign, underpass, retaining wall, whether publicly or privately owned, with paint, chalk, dye, ink, pencil, wax, or other similar substance, or by etching, scratching, cutting, burning, or carving without the express consent of the owner of said wall or other exposed surface. The owner of any real or personal property marked with graffiti must completely remove and or permanently cover any and all graffiti placed on such real or personal property within 7 days of graffiti was placed upon the property. So we this was brought up at that meeting, and we said, hey, this is not realistic. Obviously, your city council members did not listen. They took what everybody was saying in that meeting, blew it off, and left this in because this is exactly verbatim the same way it was before. So the possible crime victim will have to clean up within 7 days of somebody doing criminal activity there. You know, come on. And who is going to be the person that judges what is the graffiti? Who judges this? Uh, you have some cities where they're paying some of these a graffiti artist to go paint the walls and make things look good because it's art. You have people that draw on their sidewalk. Well, right here, you can't have it on your sidewalk. I know they said at that meeting, well, we're not going to go and judge that on a sidewalk painting with chalk or whatever. One person's art is another person's graffiti. It falls in there how they say it. So, you have people in town, they may get their vehicle, they may get something tagged with graffiti. They're reluctant to report it because now they know that the cops are going to have a 7-day clock on them. And by golly, you better have that cleaned up. You better spend whatever it takes. Oh, they graffitied your car? Well, you're going to have to spend, two, three, $4,000 to have your car fixed, have your car completely repainted, or have your house repainted to cover that up within 7 days. I wonder how well that's going to work in the dead of winter. Hey, guess what? Paint don't stick when it's 0 degrees out or when it's raining. Not too smart, folks. Not too smart here. You got to have a little bit of common sense here, and this is pretty arbitrary. And they're money hungry. They want to build this new. They want to build this new city hall. They want to build this new court, this new firehouse. They want to build this new police station. They're money hungry. They want that money. So you better believe they're going to be coming after this kind of stuff. This is low hanging fruit. Any building or structure which is unsafe, dilapidated, vacant, abandoned, boarded up, or damaged by fire to consent not provide shelter. Policy of the City of Clinton that the boarding of a building or structure is a temporary solution to prevent unauthorized entry into a vacant building. Vacant building may not remain boarded longer than 6 months unless the extension of that time is part of a plan approved by the building and safety official. Who is the building and safety official? We need to start identifying who these people are here. They need to have a list posted on their website who these people are. The term abandoned building, as used in this chapter, includes any building structure, whether completed or not, which has been occupied for a continuous period of a year and fails to comply with all applicable building, housing, electrical, fire, and plumbing codes. Where are the building, housing, fire, electrical, and plumbing codes posted? Can we have those posted? We need to have those posted and so they can be checked so this way we know what complies and what does not. They're referencing stuff here that they don't even have posted anywhere else. Buildings unfit for human habitation. Number 1. Any building or part thereof which by reason of its unsanitary condition is unfit for human habitation or which otherwise endangers public health is hereby declared to constitute a public nuisance. Okay, makes sense. 2. Any dwelling unit or rooming unit which shall be found to have any of the following defects which shall be deemed to be unfit for human habitation. If it is so damaged, decayed, dilapidated, unsanitary, unsafe, or infested with cockroaches, rats, or other vermin that it creates a serious health hazard to the health or safety of the occupants or of the public. Who determines that? So, damaged, decayed, dilapidated. I mean, you may need to have an engineer come in and do an assessment on some of that stuff. Unsanitary, unsafe, infested with cockroaches, other vermin. They could put an infestation on there if they just see just a few. They'll say, oh, it's an infestation. Again, who determines this? One from which required plumbing, heating, and lighting facilities have been removed or from which the utilities, i.e. water, gas, electric, have been disconnected, destroyed, removed, or rendered ineffective. So if your water gets disconnected, they come out there, they shut it off. They call it disconnected. If your power is disconnected, your gas is disconnected, could they go and say that your house is unfit for human habitation? I mean, this is a reality. I mean, especially right now with electric prices being up there. I imagine that they're probably going to have a lot of electrical disconnects. People are going to have their electricity disconnected. So could the city come along and just, kick the person while they're down and say, hey, just because you don't have electricity in your house, you're unfit for human habitation under Q2B. Hey, your house unfit for human habitation. The way it's written, they could. One which, because the general condition is unsanitary or otherwise dangerous to the health or safety of the occupants or of the public. So now they can say that you're unfit for human habitation. How do you go and get this set to where it is fit for human habitation? So that they say, yep, you're unfit for human habitation. End of story. You're done. So if you you have your electric shut off, you have it disconnected. Uh, it's, when you have it hooked up, are you automatically fit for human habitation again? Do you have to have some inspection done or whatever? There's no process laid out here for this. They got a way they can make it say, oh, yep, you're unfit. But how do you get it okay again? Nothing's laid out. No one on here who you got to talk to or anything. It's pretty vague. You can't make this up as you go along. It's you got to have this stuff laid out beforehand. Nothing's laid out here. You got to have the rules for the game set before you play the game. Any condition or use of the premises or building exterior detrimental to the property of others or which causes or tends to cause substantial diminution in the value of other property in which such premises are located, the city further finds that vacant abandoned buildings are unsightly, unsafe, and create a hazard for the neighborhood and citizens have a negative effect on the community. Okay, so here's this right here, whole little section is this is a slippery slope. So one of the things, and I say this because we don't know. So detrimental to the proper to tend to cause substantial diminution of value of property in the neighborhood. So how are you going to prove this? Well, that house over there, they're making my property value down. Are you sure of that? Have you had an appraisal done on your property? And can you prove that that house, whatever that house is doing there, caused the appraisal of your property to go down? Because if you can't have an appraisal, if you don't have an appraisal done and the appraisal can't show, hey, that house right there caused my property value to go down, you're running with a subjective opinion. And all that's an unsupported claim. You made a claim, you have no basis for a claim, you have no evidence to back that up. You have your opinion. Well, opinions are like something else that everybody has. You can't really prove it. And one of the things that I will throw out here too is um, and and this has been discussed at city council meetings. What happens whenever uh, a solar farm comes in? If one of the solar farms comes in, we don't know what they do to the property values. So if a solar farm would happen to come in at some point or another, and the people can go and say that, hey, you can't have that because it's going to cause a diminution in the value of my property. Well, they can't have the solar farm, but you can't prove it. You can't prove it. You can't prove that that person, or I mean, even if the person has solar panels in their yard, you can't prove that what they're doing diminishes your property. I mean, how would somebody even know how to assess that even? So this is kind of a vague thing, and without an appraisals to prove it, it's going to be pretty hard. S, to allow a dead or deceased tree to remain erect, whether on public or private property, in a manner which may be dangerous or detrimental to life and safety of persons residing on the premises or residing in proximity thereof. All such trees shall be cut down and removed. Public property. So if it's on public property, that ain't your responsibility. It's on public property. That means the city is going to have to clean up their own house and they're going to have to take care of their own stuff here. So the city is going to have to be cutting down all these trees. Oh, that's right. We can't fine the city. We can't do anything to the city. They can pass any rule they want to, rules for thee, but not for me, right here. So they've got to take care of these trees that are on public property. The feeding, oh boy, this one. The feeding of any mammal, including but not limited to feral cats, by any means, including hand feeding or placing or setting food out of food or to be left attended or unattended, which creates or has potential to create a public hazard to public health or safety, is thereby declared to be a public nuisance and to be unlawful. If any person sets or places out food that is in fact consumed by a wild mammal, that person shall be presumed to have fed the wild animal. Individuals acting on behalf of a recognized and approved TNR release program may be exempt from the feeding of feral cats for the purpose of carrying out the TNR program's mission. All right, just like we were talking about before, the way this is written is garbage. This whole section is total garbage. So if you put out any kind of food and a wild mammal eats it, they can find you. They can cite you, they can find you. No more squirrel feeders. If you've got a bird feeder and they catch a squirrel eating it, it's unattended. You set out food, it was unattended, uh, and a wild mammal got in there and ate it. You got your squirrel, you got a bird feeder, and that darn squirrel got in there and ate it. You just sets out food that is in fact consumed by a wild mammal. They're presuming that you have fed that wild mammal. Come on, man. Fix this. This is stupidity. Get this garbage out of here. Clean this up and get it fixed. This is silliness. You know? I mean, they're not, they don't even go and make a difference between a feral cat, a stray cat, and a house cat. So, I mean, and there really are. There are three different kinds of cats in the community. You have your normal cat, it's in your house, has a litter box, screams at you whenever you haven't cleaned the litter box when it thinks you should have, screams at you when it wants food, attention, whatever. Yeah, that cat. Then you have a feral cat, and a feral cat is a cat that has not had any contact with humans. That cat does not want to be around a human, doesn't want to deal with a human at all. You're not going to catch it. And that's a trap neuter release program. Those cats serve a purpose in the community. Those cats help keep the rodent population under control. They help keep down a lot of other stuff. And I'm not certified, nor do I know all the benefits of a feral cats in the town. There are a lot of other people out there that know them. But I tell you what, those feral cats serve a valuable purpose in a community. And then you have stray cats. So a stray cat was probably a house cat at one point. It got out of the house and went to go live on its own or whatever, or it got dumped, any number of ways. That cat's probably had some contact with humans. It'll come right up to humans sometimes. You know, it's somewhere in between. But they're not really differentiating between the three kinds of cats there. So, and we had a lot of very passionate people about that. at that meeting. And I hope they get this thing cleaned up because this is really sloppy written. An insecure scaffold. All scaffolds or other erections used in the erection or repair of any building shall be made secure and sufficiently wide to ensure safety of persons walking therein or passing thereunder against the falling of the same or materials placed thereon. I didn't realize scaffolds were that big of a issue in town. I guess they are. Creating, permitting nuisance. Whoever shall create, commit, or continue a nuisance of any kind or description in, upon, or about any private property or in any public place within the city, which may affect the health, comfort, convenience of persons residing or doing business in the vicinity thereof, shall be fined in accordance with 4.8 this chapter. All nuisances not defined by or provided for in this chapter, but which are known and provided for by the states and statutes of the state or under the common law, are hereby declared to be nuisances and may be proceeded against under the provisions of this section. Wow, comma, splices all over the place. Wow. Grammar people, yeah, how about that one? Abatement of nuisance. Duty to abate is hereby made the duty jointly and severally of every person creating or causing a nuisance and of every property owner and of every person in possession or control of premises upon which any nuisance may be found or maintained to immediately abate the same. Notice to abate. Whenever a nuisance is found to exist, it shall be lawful of the mayor, the health officer, or the chief of police to serve or cause to be served by any policeman or assistant a notice written or printed or partly written and printed, partly printed upon the person or persons whose duty is above declared to be to abate such nuisance, directing such person or persons to abate the same within a reasonable time to be stated in said notice, provided that nothing herein shall operate to abridge the right of the city to sue for the penalties incurred without first giving such notice. Abatement by the city. If such person, after being served with notice as provided in the foregoing subsection, shall not, within the time specified in the notice, abate such nuisance, the same shall be abated by an officer of the city, and an accurate amount of expense shall be made, and suit shall forthright be brought against the person or persons aforesaid, my bad, in any court or competent jurisdiction to recover such expense. Abatement of nuisance through civil circuit court proceedings. If such person, after being served with notice as provided in the foregoing subsection, shall not, within the time specified in notice, abate such nuisance, the city shall employ one or more of the following circuit court remedies. Prosecute any person violating this chapter to obtain a conviction and assessment of a penalty. Obtain a court order directing the defendant or defendants to abate the nuisance under such conditions and circumstances as the court may direct. Commence proceedings in court seeking a personal judgment from the owner of such property where the nuisance was abated and removed at the expense of the city. Okay. So they want to drag you into court and they want to sue you and they want to go and run up a big court cost. There you go. Trees considered to be a nuisance 41-5. A tree which is permitted to be a nuisance tree is one which is dead or declining and has potential to damage other trees, people, or structures. These trees may be located on public or private property. It shall be the duty of the property owner of the parcel to promptly remove any trees which pose a risk to personal property or human safety. When the city notifies the property owner in writing of a tree which is potential risk to personal property or human safety, the property owner shall have 20 calendar days to remove the tree. Property owner has not removed the tree within a 20-day period, the city may take action to have the tree removed. If the tree is removed by the city, a city invoice shall be sent to the property owner that contains all costs associated with the removal, including but not limited to expended city staff time, city equipment use charges, city consultant fees and charges, contractor fees and materials, oversight of said removal. If property owner fails or refuses to reimburse the city within 30 calendar days of issuance of a written note invoice, the city shall place a lien on the property till all expenses related to removal and subsequent lien are paid, the city may file legal action to collect the costs contained in the invoice. Infested trees due to the pest or pathogen are defined as a nuisance. Any tree of state of irreparable, untreatable decline due to heavy infestation or disease is included in the definition of nuisance. Infested or infected trees, which are identified by the federal, state Departments of Agriculture to be in quarantine or can potentially infect or infest other trees, are defined as a nuisance. This would include would not be limited to ash, fraxinus trees infested with emerald ash borer, which are not being treated or whose treatment is ineffectual, or elm trees infected with Dutch elm disease. The city shall enforce state and federal regulations governing quarantine zone boundaries and regulated articles. For the purpose of this section, regulated articles are hereby defined as any insects, any living state of development, and quarantine, such as wood products, including but not limited to chips, limbs, lumber, firewood, any other product or means of conveyance which may be determined by the federal, state Departments of Agriculture to pose a risk of spread of infestation or infection. Shall be illegal to move out of established quarantine zone regulated articles unless those articles miss all requirements of local, federal, state regulatory agencies. Shall be illegal for any persons or entity to be invited. Any person or entity found to be in violation of any local, state, federal regulation related to tree infestation shall be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. All contractors working within or near the quarantine zones are required to comply with the quarantine regulations and supply records that may be required for inspection to the city, county, state, and federal agencies upon request. Trees in decline or dead or defined as a nuisance. Any tree or part of a tree which is dead could potentially fall on a person or structure is defined as a nuisance. So just as since we talked about it up here earlier, so if it's on public property, that means the city is responsible for that. So it shall be unlawful for any owner of any lot or land in the city to permit or maintain on any such lot or land any tree which is dead or declining to the state where it may create a potential risk for structures or people. It shall be the duty of any such owner to promptly cause removal of any such tree. So if there's a tree on public property, people need to hold the city's feet to the fire, and they better get it down in 20 days, or else we have another case of rules for thee, but not for me going on. Smoke. Oh boy, this is a whole nother one here. Shall be unlawful for any person owning or in charge of any fireplace, smokestack, or chimney of any building or premises situated in the city to allow the emission of dense smoke therefrom, except for a period or periods aggregating 6 minutes in any 1 hour at the time when the firebox is being cleaned out or the new fire is being built therein. Such emission of smoke is hereby declared to be a public nuisance and may be abated as provided in subsections 4-4B and C of this chapter. Such abatement may be in addition to the fine provided for violation of this section by section 4-8 of this chapter. No person shall cause or allow escape in open air within the boundaries of the city from any smokestack or chimney such quantity of ash, dust, fly ash, soot, cinders, acid, or any fumes, dirt, or other material, noxious gas in such place or manner as to cause injury, detriment, nuisance, extraordinary annoyance to any person, public, or to endanger the comfort, repose, health, or safety of such person or the public, or in such manner as to cause or have a natural tendency to cause injury or damage to business or property. Such escape of such gases, materials, or fumes is hereby declared to be a public nuisance and may be abated in manner provided by subsections 4-4B and C of this chapter. Such abatement may be in addition to the fine provided by section 4-8 of this chapter. So, in a previous version of these rules, they had a method where they could measure how dense the smoke was. I, Now this is just a subjective thing. What is dense smoke? And are you going to really seriously going to have someone standing there with a stopwatch timing 6 minutes in an hour? You're going to have to monitor some of these chimneys and that 24/7 if you're going to accomplish this. It, this is just going to be a nightmare to manage it. What a freaking mess. Automobiles, inoperable motor vehicles. No person in charge or in control of the premises, whether as an owner, lease, tenant, occupant, or otherwise, shall allow an inoperable motor vehicle, whether on public or private property, in view of the general public, to remain on their property. The city hereby authorizes the law enforcement agency to remove after 7 days from the issuance of said notice any inoperable vehicle or parts thereof. However, nothing in this section shall apply to any motor vehicle that's kept within a building when not in use, to operable historical vehicles over 25 years of age, or to a motor vehicle on the premises of a place engaging in the wrecking or junking of vehicles. Okay. As used in this section, inoperable motor vehicle means any motor vehicle from which, for a period of at least 7 days, the engine, wheels, or other vehicles have been removed, or on which the engine, wheels, or other parts have been altered, damaged, or otherwise so treated that the vehicle is incapable of being driven under its own power. Inoperable motor vehicle is also any motor vehicle that is unlicensed or unregistered or bears expired, suspended, or revoked registration, such to render the operation of the same illegal under the laws of the state or the ordinances of the city. Inoperable motor vehicles shall not include a motor vehicle which has been rendered temporarily incapable of being driven under its own power in order to perform ordinary service or repair operations. I kind of question what an ordinary service or repair is. Depending on the vehicle, or ordinary repair operations or service. Some vehicles, you have to do extensive work every so often to it. I remember my uncle was telling me some of the old Volkswagens that were out there, every so many thousand miles, you had to adjust the valves on them. I mean, you have other vehicles out there, you have to do stuff to them because of that. So well, I don't know what ordinary service repair operations are. It's kind of a vague term. Penalty. Whoever shall cause or maintain a public nuisance as aforesaid, and whoever being owner of, possession, and control of any premises upon which such nuisance is found, maintained, or suffered to exist shall be subjected to, if issued a citation, the fine of $100 apply for 30 days upon the date of issuance. After 30 days from the date of issuance or upon initiating of court proceeding, the fine shall be $250. Upon conviction, an amount no less than $250, no greater than $750 shall be assessed. In the event a letter was sent from the city administrator as notice of a violation, then there will be a fine of $250 to $550 shall be assessed upon conviction. Okay, I'm not really sure. I don't quite get all that, but okay. So if the city administrator sends you any kind of a letter, then they're going to fine you $250 to $750 if they can get a conviction out of you, I guess. If they issue you a citation, then it's $100 for 30 days from the issuance, and then they're going to go up to, if it gets to the court proceedings, fines of $250, and then, but they can't fine you more than $750. Okay, whatever. And likewise, any person aforesaid who have been served with notice as specified in subsection 4-4B of this chapter shall fail to abate any nuisance within the time stated in such notice shall be subject to like penalty as above prescribed, and a further penalty of $100 a day for each day the same is suffered to remain after the expiration of the time specified in the notice. Vehicle storage. All right, so here's where, yeah, this is going to get to be messy and sloppy here, folks. In all residential properties, either zoned residential or not, the vehicles or items must be stored in operable condition in a manner which they are intended on fully being utilized and properly licensed. Furthermore, vehicle storage shall be subject to the following. Okay, so all residential properties, zoned residential or not. Uh, the, you have some areas where it is zoned highway business there, and they have a house, they have a shop there on the property. And this is not an uncommon thing. You have people living there, uh, and they're running, they're running a shop out of their garage. They're doing, body work. They're whatever there. So this looks like this is really going to hammer on them a little bit. Residential dis. Oh no, they crossed that out. There shall be allowed the parking and storage of no more than one of the following. This is stipulation A boat, a travel trailer, a recreational vehicle, or similar type vehicle within the front yard areas that having first received a parking permit from the zoning administrator. Okay, so this is within the front yard area. The front yard is defined, and this is from other areas in the city ordinances. You can check them. Is anything from the front plane of your house out to the street. So you can park a boat, a travel trailer, a recreational vehicle, or similar type vehicle. Only one in front of your house. Now, this does not say you can't park it on the street because the street is different. But if you're, so then that's public thoroughfare. So, excuse me, anything from the sidewalk to the front of your house, you can only put a one boat, travel trailer, or recreational vehicle, or similar type vehicle. I don't know if this includes motorcycles or not because they mentioned motorcycles down later on in another article. I kind of assume it, but it's not specifically enumerated here that motorcycles are included. Uh, could be. And what is a parking permit? So you have to receive a parking permit from the zoning administrator. Nowhere in here does it discuss how to get a parking permit. How much does a parking permit cost? What what is the procedure for getting the parking permit? How long does the parking permit last? How do you tell who has a parking permit and who does not? Is the parking permit transferable? I got a boat. Well, I got rid of the boat. I got rid of the boat. I got a parking. I got a travel trailer. I want to move that parking permit from this to this. What's the procedure for doing that? Or can you even do it? Again, we don't have any information about this. Vehicles or items so parked shall only be parked on a designated driveway or landscape blocks, which encompasses the entire underside of such boat, travel trailer, recreational vehicle, or similar type vehicle. Designated driveway may be constructed of concrete, asphalt, gravel, or white rock and must be free of vegetation. Landscape blocks may be a decorative or plain masonry type block. The zoning administrator shall approve the designated driveway or landscape block surface prior to issuing a permit pursuant to this section. Okay, so let's dig into this. Designated driveway or landscape blocks. Okay, so has to be the entire underside of such a boat, travel trailer, recreational vehicle, or similar type vehicle. So basically, if you're not parked on a driveway, you're pretty well screwed. Uh, and it must be free of vegetation. So a lot of driveways in town, especially if they're older sections of town and they're uh, gravel. And actually, some of the other older sections, I've seen it in several properties around. They basically have two concrete runners there, and they drive their car up on there. And then there's grass, there's like plant like basically like weed, like clover, something like that, growing up there. You can't have that anymore. You have got to get rid of all of that. Uh, so you can't have grass, you can't have clover or anything like that growing up there, or they're going to come down and fine you now. I mean, it says it right here, must be free of vegetation. That red stuff, the red font here is stuff they've added, stuff they changed. Uh, so the zoning administrator shall approve the designated driveway or landscape block surface prior to issuing a permit pursuant to this section. Is he an engineer? Is he a civil engineer? Does he know the depth that your rock is? Does he know the thickness of your blocks that is, and if it will support the weight of the vehicle that you're parking there? I'm willing to bet that he probably is not an engineer. He probably has no clue. So, and again, um, how do you get a permit? I mean, do you call him? He comes down that day, he looks at it, okay, that looks good. You know, where's the guidelines for what is an approved surface? What's approved? Now, what happens if I have a driveway already? Does everyone that has a driveway have to go and have an approval, or is everyone grandfathered in? If everyone's grandfathered in as is, do they have to abide by keeping the vegetation cleared? What kind of rules are there? Again, we don't have any clarification on this. It's the Wild West here. It's it's a free for all. It's ridiculous. Uh, so now we're getting down into the weeds here. A combination of not more than any three of the following items may be kept or stored for an indefinite period of time in the rear or side yard of the single or two family lot. Okay, we need to define some stuff here. So a side yard. So think of your property as being broken into three sections. Actually, it would be four sections here. You have everything in front of your house, between your house and your sidewalk. That is the front yard. And then looking at your house from the street, everything from the front yard, the front plane of your house to the back plane of to where the back plane of your house would be, you have the side yard and another side yard. You got two side yards there. And then you have the rear of the house. The rear of the house is everything. So if you have an alley, it would be from the rear plane of your house all the way to the alley. That would be your rear yard. So those are your four pieces: your front yard, side yard, rear. So four distinct pieces, areas on your property here. So we have those definitions down. So now they're saying that you can't have more than three of the following items: recreational vehicle, a travel trailer or camper, a boat, snowmobile, motor vehicles, which would be auto, pickup trucks, etc., and a motorcycle. Okay. Then they're saying such vehicles or items shall be subject to the applicable setback provisions concerning accessory vehicles set forth in section 12-5-6 of this chapter. Okay, so hopefully this works. We're going to look up section 12-5-6. the setback stuff here. So, accessory buildings and structures. This is all the rules about accessory buildings and structures. So, structurally attached, nope. Accessory buildings should not be erected in any side yard nor in any front yard. Well, okay. Yeah, we got a problem here. So now you can't have, because of where an accessory building can be, you can't store any of that stuff in a side yard or in a front yard. Okay, well, that's a problem. So no detached accessory building shall be located closer than 10 foot to any main building, nor shall any accessory building or structure be located closer than 3 feet to any side or rear lot line. That is clearly a setback right there. So we're going back to this. Here, you got and this is a common thing, and it's more common than you would think. You have your house, you have an attached two-car garage, and then you have an extra pad poured right next to your house. Hey, you store your boat there, you store your camper there. You got a snowmobile trailer. You park your bike there. You put a cover over it. Maybe you have a toy truck, or a mud truck, something like that you stored there. You can't store it there. You can't store it there because it's closer than 10 foot to the main building. Well, the main building, since your garage is attached to your house, that's part of the main building. Now, depending on how close that is to your lot line, you may not be able to have it there at all. Because if it's not 3 foot from the side or rear lot line, you can't have it there. And there's a lot of houses that are set up like this, especially out in some of the additions on the south side of town. This is a common setup because they don't have a lot of room to get around back. They just can't really access their backyards to put stuff back there and store it back there. So they park it right next to there, which, hey, and it's your property. You're putting it there, and you've probably done it for decades that you've done it for. Okay. Uh, and then the rest of the height of the accessory buildings, that's not really an issue. Uh, Here we go. And this here clearly has setback in it. When accessory building is located on a corner lot, the lot line, which is substantially a continuation of the front lot line to the lot of its rear, said building should not project beyond the front yard setback required on the lot to the rear of such corner lot. Again, we're applying building codes here to where you park your vehicles. These are not permanent fixtures. They move. They move around. This is not, it's not really workable. Vehicles or items so parked shall only be parked on designated driveway or landscape blocks which encompasses the entire underside of the vehicle or item. A designated driveway may be constructed concrete, asphalt, gravel, white rock, must be free of vegetation. Landscape blocks may be the decorative plain masonry type block. The zoning administrator, and we already talked about this. They need to do a little cleanup here on their numbering, how they numbered some things and stuff like this. Again, that's not really a big deal. But the big change there is before you just had to have blocks underneath of your tires and your front tongue jack. Like if you had a camper, just the tongue jack, the tires, and you were good. Now you're going to have it underneath the whole thing, and you're going to have it parked perfectly on there because it has to encompass the whole length of it. Basically, you're going to have to park everything in a driveway. but not in the side yard, because if it's in the side yard, then you violated that. Travel trailer, motorhome, or camper parked or stored in any zoning district shall not be connected to municipal utilities and shall not be occupied for any period in excess of 2 weeks in any calendar year. So my question about a municipal utility is it okay to have it plugged into to draw power? I'm kind of curious about that one. If power is acceptable, uh, I would think it probably is, because it's not a municipal utility; it's a private utility. Uh, for purposes of this section, the front yard of a corner lot shall be that portion of the yard adjacent to the entrance of the improvements of the property. For purposes of this section, a stored vehicle shall not be interpreted to include any operable passenger vehicle being continually used by the occupant. And then they crossed out a section here: any such vehicle being used 3 or more times a week should be considered operable. So we removed a definition here. So now it's subjective. It's subjective. So, uh, an operable passenger vehicle, can it drive? Is it licensed? Yep, it's an operable passenger vehicle. You know, it should pull itself under its own power, I guess. But again, how does the city know if it can pull itself under its own power? Are they going to make you go and prove it? Because they can't really make you go and do that, because you're guilty till you're proven. That says you're guilty till you're proven innocent. No, sorry, Charlie, I'm innocent till you prove me guilty. Prove that vehicle can't pull itself under its own power. Uh, so it's kind of sketchy there a little bit. Any person violating any provision of this chapter shall be subject to a penalty as provided in section 1-4-1 of this code, and a separate offense shall be deemed committed on each day during or on which nuisance continues unabated after 7 days from receipt of the notice. The city hereby authorizes law enforcement agents to remove after 7 days from the issuance of said notice any inoperable vehicle or items thereof. Okay, folks, this stuff's a mess. Just, I, it's a mess. This is just total mess. This is sloppy done again, and it's call your commissioners. You have Mayor Helen Michelossi is the mayor. Call her up. Tell her you oppose this stuff. Call up Tom Edmonds. Tell him you oppose this stuff. Call up Dan Ballinger. Tell him you oppose this stuff. Call up Johnny Wise. Tell him you oppose this stuff. Call up Buchanan. Tell him you oppose this stuff. I mean, those are your those are your 5 elected officials. They work for you. If you don't like this stuff, call them up and tell them you oppose it. Show up to the meeting. 7 o'clock, August 19th, 2025, City Council Chambers. We made them think twice about this stuff once. If you guys see stuff on here you don't like, you got questions about this stuff, get up there and ask them. And if they say, well, that's how we wrote it, but that's not how we want to enforce it, do not accept that as an answer. Do not accept that as an answer. Because if it's written, that's how it can be enforced. We're not necessarily worrying so much about today and tomorrow, but what happens when they're gone? What happens in 3 years? We're going to be having a new chief of police here. Within a year, we will have a new chief of police. Lowers has already announced he's going to plan on retiring early in 2026, sometime in 2026. So you get your new police chief in here and he decides, we're going to enforce this as it's written. We don't care. Well, guess what, folks? How it's written is how it's going to be enforced. We don't have a leg to stand on this. They can say, well, we don't really want to do it like that. cops are going to go tough. Well, then you shouldn't have wrote it like that because this is what we can do. So be aware this stuff is out there. Call your elected officials, voice opposition to this stuff. They have phone numbers, they have email. Go up to City Hall, tell the city administrator, Tony Harris, you oppose this. The only way this stuff gets stopped, it gets changed, is if we show up in force and we tell them we don't want this. So, this is Bob. Thanks for your